Israel, 30 years ago this year, when Netanyahu first became prime minister, adopted a strategy that was explained in a public paper called the Clean Break Strategy. And the Clean Break Strategy said, we will never accept, we being our new government, never accept a state of Palestine. We will occupy all of what had been the British Palestine, British mandatory Palestine. In other words, we'll control Gaza, we'll control the West Bank, we'll control all of Jerusalem, and we may control other places as well. We'll never do that, but we'll face resistance when we make that claim and hold on to this territory. We'll definitely face resistance. We'll definitely face resistance of militant groups. But what Netanyahu and his colleagues in the United States said was, rather than fighting those militant groups directly, we need to bring down the governments in the Middle East and West Asia that support those groups. And that is what's called the Clean Break Strategy. The Clean Break was the clean break from the peace accords, from the land for peace idea that Israel would return to its borders, there would be a Palestinian state in return for peace. That's what international law says. But what Israel says is we're never returning. There's never going to be a state of Palestine. In fact, we're going to have what we call Greater Israel, which is all of Palestine, including Gaza, West Bank, East Jerusalem, legal Israel, but also expanded parts of the region. And when you interviewed Ambassador Huckabee, the U.S. ambassador to Israel, he put it very clearly that the great zealots, including Huckabee, and many of the Israeli leaders view Greater Israel as control from a big slice of Egypt all the way to Iraq, from what is taken to be even a biblical gift of God to the ancient Israelites, from the river of Egypt to the great river of Mesopotamia, meaning the Euphrates River. So Israel wants military dominance. The clean break idea was, when we aim for that, we'll find resistance. We don't fight and extinguish the militant groups because we can't. We have to fight the governments that back them. And that's where the idea of perpetual war in the Middle East came from, or not perpetual war, but actually specifically 7 wars were designated that would overthrow governments supporting Palestinian militancy. And those governments were Libya, Sudan, Somalia, Lebanon, Syria, Iraq, and Iran. And we've now been pulled into Israel's 7 wars. 6 of those wars have led to bloodbaths and disasters, from Libya, still in civil war, Sudan, unbelievably, in 2 civil wars, because we broke the country apart, and each of those 2 parts now has its own civil war. Somalia, there's not even a government. There is a government, actually, a very nice prime minister that I know, but barely governance in the country. Lebanon, we see it's an invaded, basically destroyed country. Syria, the U.S. and Israel worked for 15 years from Obama until this past year to overthrow the government. That was an active covert regime change operation. Iraq, the 2003 war and the debacle that lasted for years after that. And Iran was the last. So 6 of the 7 places are in chaos. And from Israel's point of view, great. We like chaos. That means we are the military hegemon for all of that region, stretching from Libya to Iraq. Chaos is great. They can't get their act together. They're all in civil war. What could be better? The seventh is Iran. And that's where we're facing right now. And interestingly, when the war started, Netanyahu tweeted, "This is my dream come true for 40 years. And I had to confess, I made a mistake. I always said 30 years because I dated it to clean break, 1996. But I didn't know Netanyahu before he was prime minister. I didn't know that he had 10 years more of dreaming of this war. So the off-ramp violates not only the American conditions of defending its imperial strength, but the Israeli dream of full control over the region. And that's why the off-ramp is so hard. I have to say one more thing, just because it is a little bit of a complicated picture. It's not incidental, and I don't want anyone to think I'm naive in this. When we talk about why the United States wants Iran within the U.S. empire, why it overthrew Mossadegh in 1953, remember the oil. So I don't want to forget to mention that. That's not only a 1953 issue that was aimed to ensure that Iran would not take back its oil from British and then American interests. Trump absolutely, without question, no doubt, 100%, is as strongly beholden to the oil lobby as he is to the Zionist lobby. And he said so vividly, vocally in 2024. He said, raise $1 billion for me. It's a deal. You'll get all the benefits from this. What he did in Venezuela, he thought he was about to do in Iran as well. So this needs to be understood as just one more piece of this. Yes, he wanted to fight with Iran for 46 years, at least since 1980, probably 47 since 1979. But what he thinks he learned from kidnapping the Venezuelan president and then suborning the Venezuelan government is, I can do a decapitation and then own the oil of that country. And so part of the motivation now was revenge, bring Iran back into the empire. But part of the benefit of bringing Iran back into the American empire is you get the oil. And he thought within one day he'll get the oil, because just like removing Maduro, he thinks, gave America Venezuela's oil, he thought killing the Iranian governmental leadership, starting with this religious supreme leader and then the top officials of the government that were meeting that day with the supreme leader, he would take the oil. So that's the tableau. This is why it's hard to take the exit ramp, because there were reasons for this war. To my mind, cruel, illegal, delusional. So I don't abide by any of those reasons, but there were reasons for this war. And taking the off-ramp means that none of those would be fulfilled. From my point of view, fine. None of them was valid. But from the point of view of the two architects of this war, Trump and Netanyahu, that's quite hard to do. But, as I said, the alternative, which is an escalated war, within a few weeks could destroy the world economy.
Thank you for that. That was...
Sorry to go on so long.
I loved it. And it's much needed, because there's always a context. You did this with the Ukraine war once in this room, and I've never stopped thinking about it.
Thanks for watching. You can go to tuckercarlson.com for our entire library of everything we've done, and we hope you will.